Welcome to the Law, Your Money, and You. I'm Roberta, Saphire, an attorney in New England.
I'm Camille, Barron, a financial coordinator, also in New England. And Roberta, today we have a guest who's back for a second time.
Yes.
And this guest is quite knowledgeable, very much involved in financial literacy in the schools. And he's going to tell us what's happening and how we're infusing this whole idea of learning more about finances into the school system.
And everybody should really pay attention. He has been on before. He's the head of the Mass Council on Economic Education. And if I'm saying it wrong, correct me. But Scott Giles, a wonderful, educated, informational do-man.
Thank you. That's a wonderful introduction.
Well, you're a wonderful man and you do wonderful things. But if you want to just recap a little bit about yourself, not too much, because we really went into that the first one, and people know you, and maybe concentrate on career readiness, the workshops you do.
Absolutely. So just to set context for you, I appreciate having the opportunity to speak with you today and come back. I really enjoyed the first shot at this, and hopefully people will enjoy the second one. So as you said, I'm the president of the Mass Council for Economic Education. So I'll just say that how I got there is previous to that I was the director of economic education at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston for 13 years. And before that I was management consultant actually at Anderson Consulting and a local and state strategy practice. And I knew a little bit about technology, and I learned a lot about strategy. And then prior to that, I was a teacher and educator for administrator for 23 years in the Newton Public School System.
Wow, what a great combination of finance and education.
Well, education has been woven in between all these somewhat different institutions. But I enjoy working with teachers. I enjoy the concept of education, and in my own personal life, college education had a significant impact on where I am today, living in Wellesley. And so I'd like that to be available to all young people across the Commonwealth. And so, as the president of the Mass Council for Economic Education, we do have a mission, and our mission is to teach the fourth R, a real-world understanding of everyday economics. It took us a long time to get down to that, because when you try to get into mission statements, but luckily I work with a wonderful person who's on my board, PJ Scott, and she helped us to kind of break it down, because it can get a little pedantic when you're trying to explain what you do. But we thought, there's 3 R's. Well, this is the fourth R, and what is that R? It's real-world everyday economics.
Excellent.
Which includes financial literacy as well as economic decision making. And so we like to be seen as the go-to organization within the state for teacher training, and we do provide an assessment program through the Council for Economic Education, which is the mothership, which is in New York, and access to quality resources. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is we had a very successful grant that we fulfilled. The Council for Economic Education provides grants to its state affiliates, like Rhode Island, I think Margaret was on just before, and to Massachusetts. And so Massachusetts applied, we got the grant, and the grant was for a thumb drive that had about 1,200 activities and lesson plans on it. It was called Virtual Economics 4.5, and the reason it's 4.5 is because it's the 4.5 version of this that started somewhat almost about 10 years ago.
I think we got one of those.
Did you?
I think so. I don't know if it's through Dr. Brooks or through you.
Well, you got good connections.
Yeah, we do.
For our grant, the teachers, and we impacted 75 teachers. We had 50 virtual economic thumb drives, but we actually had added demand. So we had 75 people participate, and you had to participate in a 2-hour workshop to get the actual thumb drive.
To get the thumb drive.
Right.
Who gave the grant?
It's the Council for Economic Education, which is in New York, and that's what I call the mothership. That's the national organization.
Oh, a national.
Yeah, it used to be called the National Council for Economic Education, but when they went international, national was too limiting, so now it's the Council for Economic Education.
So they are international.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
International.
Right.
Oh, boy.
Right, so it's a pretty interesting organization. It was around. The reason it came into existence because some businessmen and academics back in the late 1950s felt that teachers, high school teachers specifically, could not get access to quality resources or teacher training around economics.
So can we ask how much the grant was for, out of curiosity?
Not a lot of money.
No, because it's to do flash
Yeah, what
drives
happened is
and
they
it's
gave
what
the
goes
drives
in.
to us, to the Mass Council,
they
for
gave
free.
them. Oh,
They're
okay.
$180, approximately $179 item. And the deal was, the rent for doing this is that the teachers who participated needed to attend and participate in a professional development workshop. So we did that with our two centers, one at Bridgewater State University with Dr. Margaret Brooks, and the other at Salem State University with Van Pham, who is an economist there. And so we provided the programs in multiple locations, and in fact, of the 75 teachers, a majority of them were middle school students. Next was high school students, and we actually had some elementary school teachers. And it was focused on, when you got the grant, it had to have a focus, and ours was on college and career readiness. So the idea was
College and
to
Career
speak
Readiness
with young
Workshop.
people early on to get them thinking about types of jobs and careers. And then as we moved along, to get them thinking about investment in human capital. And as they got older, to think about, okay, how long might I delay my entering the economy? In other words, get a associate's degree, get a bachelor's degree, get a professional degree, etc. So a lot of the data we showed the teachers that they could use in the classes with the kids is post our 2008 period, the Great Recession. Who lost, and if you had a high school degree, what was the likelihood that you would be unemployed? And it went, larger there, and then as you moved up to
Fascinating.
professional, it got down to around 3%.
That's priceless.
Right.
You can't put a price
And
tag
another,
on it.
I wish I had the images here because we used it with the teacher. You're right. And the teacher's like, I'm going to use this because it's a great incentive. Then it talks about how much money you make typically as an educated young person. No high school degree, something after high school, 2-year degree, like a associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, graduate degree, professional degree. And it's
Eye-opening.
mind-boggling. Not every individual, because they're speaking aggregately. You could be the doctor that doesn't make a whole lot of money, or the lawyer for some reason doesn't make a lot of money. But typically, if you went into these kind of professions, this is the kind of money you would make. The reason I was interested in this is because there's sort of two caveats. One, an educational caveat. It's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know.
Oh, I like that.
And the second is, it's
What
not
you
what you
doing.
make, it's what you keep. So
Well, I always said that.
those two caveats were the sort of what set up how we provided this program, because we wanted young people to think about actively learning. When you're learning at your desk or on the internet or doing whatever all, how does this apply to the kind of skill sets I will need to be successful, the habits of mind I will need to be successful?
I got a question.
Yes,
though.
absolutely.
We got the credit for life fairs going
Yeah.
on now.
Yep.
What you're talking about should be right there with it.
Right.
Right there with it. That's what we're trying to do, is get the kids to see, make the career choices. What would you do if you this? What you're doing. Now, is there a way that you'll eventually, are
Well,
you
it's
doing
interesting
this?
that you bring that up, because one of the presentations I did was to, as you know, the Treasurer's Office has received money through the Innovation Fund, through the Office of Economic Empowerment, to give money to high schools to provide credit for life fairs. In fact,
Oh, yeah.
in fact, there are 52, I believe, that are going on either this fall or this spring, etc. And so schools are provided a grant of $5,000 if you're first time through, $2,500 to provide these credit for life fairs. Well, one of the things that the Treasurer's Office offered was for me to provide this program to some of the schools that were doing credit for life fairs. So you're right on target. Just like the Treasurer's Office, they were thinking, these are sort of parallel and related learning experiences that the teacher should be thinking about when they're offering, like the Credit for Life Fair experience. This is a one-day shot, but how do you think of it sort of in the longer perspective?
I think they're both needed.
Right.
They're both needed. It's like getting dressed up and you have to go out the door, but you need a pair of shoes.
Right.
Or whatever you want to say. But I mean, if you can't do it without
Well,
both.
and that sort of falls into another thing. When we as the Mass Council are part of a larger group called Mass Saves, we believe the need, the
Mass
pie is
Save.
so big, we should be working together. So Massachusetts Jumpstart, Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, JA Western Mass, JA Northern New England,
What's JA?
Junior Achievement.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah,
Junior
Junior
Achievement. We're
Achievement.
all
That's been
working
for
together
years.
to provide programming, to share information, best practices. We actually have conference calls the first Tuesday of every month for an hour and a half to just communicate with each other, ask for help, like for a Credit for Life fair. There was a teacher, Ingrid Adade, who's out in Clinton, Mass, and she was looking for some volunteers. And somebody said, oh yeah, we can do X, Y, and Z. There's also things that come out, like somebody knew that the new elementary Every Student Succeeds Act had a couple titles in it, Title II and Title IV, that talked about what is a well-rounded education. And from an advocacy point of view, we think financial literacy is important for young people to have in K-12. So it's those kinds of sort of conversations, informing one another of what's sort of coming down the pike, maybe pushing the button for people to support one another. That's what we do on these calls. So what I'm saying is that the need is so big, and there are a number of people who are doing different things in different places that have, I call them islands of competency. We're trying to
I like
connect
that,
the nodes
too.
of those
That's
islands of competency. One, know that they exist, and then connect them with other people who are doing good work in financial literacy.
So
Yeah.
the question I have is, right now, there's really no formal structured program in the schools as a whole, right? Like there's math and there's science, but there's no requirement per se.
That's
for
That's
financial-
absolutely correct. I think
That's
the
the
only
word.
requirements are gym and
So
That's
how
the
does
word.
it, how does,
and
how do the
English.
teachers who participate, how do they actually deliver this information? Is it in an economics class? Is it some
It's
other way?
actually delivered almost, and when it comes to financial literacy, it's everywhere, and I say it's like nowhere, because it has no home. Economics has a home sort of in social sciences and history, but
Isn't
financial
there some
literacy
law
doesn't.
coming through or should come through that it
there-
should have a place?
There are laws that have been written. In fact, we work with certain senators who are friends at the Hill, like Eldridge, to write
Eldridge.
bills that talk about infusing financial education into the school curriculum.
I like that.
And when next October, when things get hot again, I'd like to be back on here again to ask everybody to support some of these bills, because we think they're very important. I apologize.
Don't
That's
worry
a phone
about it.
there.
Don't worry
So
about it.
yes,
That way
there
we
will be
know we're
there will be a
real.
time for advocacy, and I think it's next
Somebody
October. We're
calling.
going to do a day on the Hill. The Mass Saves group is going to do a day on the Hill, and we'll be looking for some people to come out and support
Is
that.
Mass Save the same one who comes out and does energy audits for your
No,
house?
That's
that's
Mass
Mass
Save.
Save. No S at the end. But that's the problem.
Oh, this
It's Mass Saves. Right, it's an
Which one are you,
organization.
Mass Saves?
We're with the one with the S.
The one with the S.
The one with the
Why,
S.
why did they do that?
Well,
I don't know.
well,
We have a little branding problem. You got that right.
Why is it though? Why is it? If financial literacy is such a critical element of success, why do the schools not have it as a requirement?
Okay. Now you're asking
Good
me
question.
why. I'll tell you what we hear. In other words, when we go out to the politicians and say, you know, da 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 da, you got to have personal finance, they'll look, oh yeah, sure, yes we do. We need to have that in there. And some people will actually go forth and write bills. When we go to school administration, but those bills never go far enough to become law. They'll get through the education committee, but then when they're sent to Ways and Means or wherever,
They postpone it.
it just
so
never
that
it
it
never
dies.
gets covered. So it just
Yeah.
goes like this, unfortunately.
called
Someday
politics.
maybe we'll be smart enough to realize this is a very important thing. It's a life skill for people.
Maybe we
Everybody,
should have you run
Huh?
the office.
Maybe I don't know. I'm kind of old. Although there's some really
know.
older people running for certain offices, I must say these days.
Yeah.
The other thing is, it's interesting you say that, because I and other members of the Mass Saves group will go out and do presentations, and we'll go, How many have had sex ed in the schools? Boom. And how many have had driver's ed? Ba-doom. How many have had drug education? Bada-bida-bing. How many have had financial literacy?
Nobody.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, they don't even know.
Hello? Not. And so...
They should look at their own children and grandchildren
Right.
as smart kids, and you don't even know.
Right.
That's somebody trying to call in here.
Yeah, it's somebody trying to call in, so I apologize. I had this other thing going.
don't
Right.
apologize.
So,
They
but
probably
your
wanna
point is well
ask
made.
you
There are,
questions.
I think, very good laws being written, but not being passed. So we were talking about, financial literacy and being a requirement. One of the things I did learn, being on the task force of the Treasurer's Office, is that if the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education were to require it, they'd have to pay for it. So there's a financial component to this that's...
Who would have to pay for it?
If the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education were to require any course,
Oh,
but in
okay.
this particular case, financial literacy, they'd have to be able to pay for it. Now, there's budgetary considerations that
How
are
about the
involved here.
federal government?
Well,
I
one
mean,
of the
the
things-
whole country should get
One of the
on
things
it.
is Massachusetts has been known for public-private partnerships. They've been very successful at doing that. And that the real issue here is how to get private industry, the Novatuses, the banking industry, and others to be interested in this, because it would have to be some kind of matching deal between public funds and private funds saying this is really important. Because of that, it's a very sophisticated kind of approach you have to take. Now, we in Massachusetts are different than, say, Texas. The state of Texas said there will be financial education, there will be economics, and you will teach it. And that was it. Massachusetts is run by local educational authorities, your local school committee. They decide what curriculum you have. Now, there are some schools that do require economics in their schools, and there are some schools that require financial literacy. But that's done one school committee by one school committee to make those kind of
Can't the
decisions.
state say you have to?
But if they do, they'll have to pay for it.
Oh, I get it.
Right. So it's an ongoing battle. I think there've been some very good people in support of this. I think if we can just get people to focus on it long enough.
So if they pay for it, that's from our taxes?
That's
Is that-
exactly
they get
it.
from the
Right.
taxes.
Right. Do you think it's important enough to have added taxes related
Oh,
to this?
absolutely. I think college should be free. I'm very
Do
education
you know that in
conscious.
New York, Cuomo said that he's going to make state colleges tuition free? I
They
can't
should
wait
be.
to see what he does there. Now,
They
in this
should
state,
be.
they have made some action. They've made some steps toward making attending state schools less expensive. It's the
No,
Commonwealth Commitment and Mass Transfer Program.
It's just like public schools are free. Colleges should be free because it's not an expense. You're investing in these children that go there, and then they will become citizens, and your whole economy, your whole help me
Right.
for the
Right.
words. I'm
It's
looking
called
for.
investment in your infrastructure. But have you looked at
I
your
like that,
bridges
too.
lately?
Oh, my
Have you
goodness.
looked at your roads
Our
lately?
infrastructure needs
So now we're
investment.
saying
Oh, the
that
roads are
we want to
bad.
add into that your investment in human capital,
Yeah.
which we talked about.
Yeah.
That the
Well,
state
yeah.
would invest in its human capital. And you know what? Our state gets, I think we're the number one state in terms of being educated. In those rankings that they have
Well,
that
we've been
go out
around
there.
so
And so
long.
what I'm saying is that Massachusetts really does get something from its students, and because of its colleges and because of its universities and
good.
because of the educational system they have here.
that's
And
good
people
to
may,
know.
bugaboo the Boston public school system, but there are things going on there that are really good, that are recognized
good.
nationally. So I think one of the things it would be, it's a mindset. You know how we want to talk to kids about habits of mind? We're also getting to the
Habits of mind.
citizenry,
They're all these
changing
new
their
words.
mindset about what's a good investment. What is a good investment?
Yeah,
If
let
I
the
inve-
old people go to school too.
Right.
Education never hurt anybody. I
What
mean,
was
you
it?
gotta,
There was
you
one
gotta
guy that
keep-
said, I'd
keep
rather
going."
invest in a A-type person with a B-type idea than a B-type person with an A-type idea. And if we could get other people, I think it was the head of Dell, the person who started Dell, who said that. I think if we could get the mindset to be changed,
Yeah.
that these young people really are an investment in our future.
Shall we say you've got to be kidding instead of going into you've got to be kidding? Did you ever somebody say to you, you've got to be kidding?
When
That's what they say to you?
No, that's the issue is that the difficulty in this is that
Oh, I didn't even
I
bring
hardly
up the
ever get
bag.
anybody say that it's not important. But the devil is in the details, so
And
to
in the
speak.
money.
And in the money.
Yeah,
Right.
You got to-
Where are
you
you going
got
to take
be
the money
kidding.
from to do this?
right. And people complain if you're going to raise taxes. Let's
Right.
face it.
They have to. They have to get the money. Let them increase.
Well, clearly
be
other nations have
just
made a decision to do things like this, to provide free education for students all the way through. I think it's Denmark that free college education.
How about the people who publish the books? Like $200 for a book that should cost $5.
Okay, that's the other
The
side of the
college
conversation
books?
we
Yeah,
have
you
in the
gotta be kidding,
college
honey.
and,
Yeah,
when we have
you
the
got
college
to
and
be
career
kidding.
conversation.
Yeah,
The other
well, you
side
got
of it is
to
that
be
the
kidding
expenditure. Colleges have gotten ridiculously expensive.
They have.
And they've got to get that under control. Because, I mean, the tuition, I remember back in the
Why?
day,
Where did
I
they
went to
spend the
Harvard
money
University.
on?
I think I paid a total of $5,000 because I was a scholarship baby. But I think yearly it was about $5,000. So I paid a quarter of what it was back then.
Yeah.
That
Minus
would
less.
barely buy you your books
Yeah,
these
right.
days.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So what's the story?
Speaking
with
of
the
books, I noticed you guys
Oh,
have got
yes,
some
you got to
things
be-
here that
Well, I
look
will
kind of
say-
interesting to me.
Yeah, thank you for asking. And you're not kidding. These are our pro farmers. These are the ones we put out to the towns, police departments. We don't charge them anything before we get the final printing. And we finished. We started with Sharon, and it went so viral. It's custom made individually that the Massachusetts Police Station, Chief Police Association recommended us, and we have 23 towns that we're working on. We actually finished Auburn, Wakefield, and Bedford, which are so fascinating, and all these police are so
Yeah, from
wonderful.
what I gather, I got a chance to look through it, and you've
Yeah.
really personalized. You have pictures of the
Yeah,
police
the
officers on there,
officers and
their
everything.
badge.
And we deliver it to them, and we don't charge them a penny. We don't charge them a penny. We're a 501c3. We get donations from people and from other organizations and cultural councils, and we're doing not just for bigger towns, but we're doing Pittsfield, which is a city. Brockton is a city, and then we're doing Hopedale, we just finished, which has only got 4,000 people. We're doing, which is almost finished too, Buzzards Bay, Bourne, down the Cape,
All righty. So, and why are we doing this?
to teach children from the ages when they're young that police officers are our friends, so that when they grow up, they won't go shooting our police officers.
Well, you're in the same business I am, trying to change people's mindsets.
And you
Yeah.
start when they're young.
Yeah, you start when they're
You start
young.
when and you reach the parents when you do that too.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
teaching them, because their police officers are our friends. We got one from Maryland, is it?
Oh, I thought it was
It's
North
Greensboro,
Carolina.
North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Where
A request?
started,
Yes.
a request on the book. They had, it's funny, they had a big thing there. We started these last August, and the police chief was on national TV, and he says, I wish there was some way we could teach them that police officers are our friends.
Yeah.
And I'm going, there it is.
Well, there's
There it
actually one
is.
of the police departments, I forgot which one it is, there was a policeman, and this picture is in that particular town's book, that he was shot in the line of duty.
Oh, yeah, that was Auburn back in May. He was sitting in his car and he got shot. Actually, the Boston Marathon, I think Bedford and Auburn were the first responders that got that fellow who did it.
Right.
And they take their life in their hand. People don't realize. And that's why, it's funny that there was last summer, the police were going out in different communities giving ice cream to the children.
Well, I think community policing is very important, and to create an environment in which young people can see police officers as human beings, I think is really important.
Exactly.
And
Because
if the
then that
kid-
allows them to then effectively maybe alter behaviors
Right.
or adjust behaviors.
And some of them
some
go
folks.
do crimes because they don't have the money to support themselves or the education. So it is, like you just
Yeah.
said before, all a
They're all
circle.
connected.
And we have to end.
Absolutely.
And you're not kidding. And we
No, we're
it's
not kidding
fascinating.
either.
I don't
Nobody's
even know
kidding.
if we covered the
No, I'm sure we
topics that
didn't.
we were going.
Oh, there's a bunch of
Absolutely.
other
You'll come
topics.
back.
Just
Oh
give
my
us another
God.
opportunity
You will
to
come
come
back.
back.
Yeah,
And maybe I want to.
bravo. This
Right.
is fascinating.
Well, I really interested in the things that you're doing, and again, all of these efforts need to be shared with other folks so that they know that it's going on. So this is something I'll share with the Mass Saves group so that they know that you're doing this. And I'm glad I had an opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the
Yeah. Fantastic.
activities
And we'll
of the
be in-
council
we're in 24
and
towns
our
plus
Mass Saves
Boston.
partners. But I have a
Yeah.
whole lot of other stuff I'd like to talk
We'll
about.
come.
So.
We'll invite you
Yeah,
back.
well,
All right.
thank you. Bravo.
Right. Okay. So to our
Yeah.
viewers, we thank you very much for joining us. And this is a topic that I know a lot of people are interested in. If you have any questions or would like more information, please let us know, and we'll get the information over to you. We'll contact Scott, and he'll get that
Yes.
back to us.
Fascinating.
And going on from here, remember that we would love to hear from you, to hear what kind of questions or topics you'd like to hear from in the future. Because remember, this is your show. The law, your money,
And you.